Hello everyone, this is Sean here, and I'm going to be talking about my favorite manga today. Before we get into my list, I just want to give a PSA. After you view this list, after you see it, I think many of you would be like, you should read Berserk. Or the other group of you is, you should read One Piece. And I have read a decent amount of both, and neither of them are my favorites. So, just saving you some time. You can suggest them. You can be like, Sean, it gets fantastic, but I'm still probably not going to read them. I read a lot of One Piece. I think like 40-ish volumes, and I don't care for it. So, without further ado, here we go. Unlike my favorite fantasy and science fiction video, this I will try to do in an order. So we'll start with my, I guess, least favorite of my favorites. Ranked number 5, if I can count correctly. No, 6. This is ranked number 6. So we will start off with Dead Demons Destruction, whatever it's called. Dead Demons Destruction by Inui Asano. This story is very odd. Basically, aliens have parked their mothership over Tokyo, and it's been several years. When the story begins, it's been several years since they've arrived, and humanity is trying to learn what they can about them. But the main focus is on a few different high school girls as they prepare to enter college. Just the first volume. It's kind of dry at the beginning. It's very ponderous as these students just go about their lives trying to do normal student things while there's a mothership over Tokyo. In a way, it's very slice of life with this added sci-fi element. There's also commentary on media and social media and video games. It's a very interesting series, but like I said, it does start out very slowly. It's very dry at the beginning, and you're probably going to be wondering, when did the aliens become a thing? But eventually the aliens do make their presence more known, and there is a deeper plot with that. So I would recommend checking it out. It's a fun series. It's also very quirky. The humor is very quirky, and it's definitely one that I will be interested to see how it ends. And at number 5, we have a second Inui Asano series. That would be Goodnight Poonpoon. This series follows a young boy in the first volume of the name of Poonpoon, and the series shows him growing up through, I believe he goes through high school, and then even as a young man, college age. In the series, Poonpoon and his family are drawn as these little bird-like things, while everyone else is drawn like people. And it's assumed, Poonpoon and his family, they are also people, but for whatever reason, they're drawn as bird people. And this is not a happy story, unlike Dead Demons, where it's mostly humorous, I'd say, for the most part. This one is humorless for the most part. There are occasionally, I'm sure, funny moments, but this is mostly about Poonpoon growing up, living with an abusive family, and spiraling into a deeper depression. So, if that doesn't sound like fun to you, I wouldn't recommend reading it. One thing about Goodnight Poonpoon that does kind of drop it down further on the list at number 5 is there is a subplot that deals with a cult that is bizarre. I'm not really sure what the purpose of it is, and to me it kind of distracts from the ending, which I do think the ending is great, but the momentum of the series is kind of slowed down by this odd subplot that to me doesn't really seem to go anywhere. And if it weren't for that, it might be a little higher on the list, not quite sure, but maybe it just needs a reread. All right, at number 4, now decisions are having to be made because these next few series I think are fantastic. And that would, well, number 4 would be 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa. So 20th Century Boys is kind of hard to explain. It is science fiction. Basically, the beginning, at least I can say the beginning, is you have a group of friends who are adults, and around town they start seeing this symbol that they used to make when they were kids playing in a clubhouse, and there are mysterious goings on about town whenever those symbols are discovered. So that's super brief. Obviously it gets much more complex. These are the perfect editions, so these have 2 volumes in one. So this would have, I believe, volumes 10 and 11, because this is volume 5 of the original series. I would definitely recommend 20th Century Boys, or anything by Urasawa. Monster is also a great series, but the thing about 20th Century Boys is it's going to keep you guessing. I think as the story unravels, it gets more and more grandiose. The plots get thicker. At some points, I will say sometimes it feels like I don't know if he really knew where he was going. And, you know, maybe that's just me being a little critical, but I do think if you like good science fiction, if you like good mystery, this would be a great one to check out. And also the art is great. I really like Urasawa's art. It feels sort of like a throwback almost, but check it out. I know that was probably not a great description of the story, but I don't want to give anything away. It is a wild ride. All right, and at number 3, again, it's getting very difficult to make decisions, but we have Vagabond by Takahiko Inui. This is such a great series. Vagabond, I think, is technically based off of a novel called Musashi, and the novel is technically based off of a real figure in history, Miyamoto Musashi. This is, if you like samurais, read it. Even if you like historical fiction, read it. If you like lots of sitting around pondering philosophical stuff, read it. There's not a lot of action in it for a series about a samurai. Now, to be fair, this volume I'm holding up, this is actually, the Viz Big volumes are 3 volumes in one, but this particular one has a ton of action. It's just amazing action in this particular volume. But a lot of it is not that action-packed. A lot of it is more character work, more ponderous, as I said. And the visuals are stunning. I mean, this is the best art you'll see in a manga, hands down. I can't think of anything that is better. The plot is pretty straightforward. Musashi is trying to be the best swordsman in the world. I mean, it can't get more simple than that. But his transformation and his reflecting on his life of violence is honestly it's a great series. I wish it were done. I wish it was being worked on right now. It is on hiatus. I think it's been on hiatus for a long time at this point. But I'm really hoping that we get some more Vagabond at some point, because the series is incredible. And even if you just check it out for the art, go find it at your library, go find it at the bookstore, flip through it, because it's honestly breathtaking. It's the best art you'll see in a manga. I'll say it again. Okay, number 1 and number 2 are very difficult for me to decide, but I decided to put this one, the one I have in my hand, at number 2 because it's not finished yet, and we'll see how it wraps up. If it wraps up pretty well, this may end up being my number 1. But we have Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga, if you are unaware, is a story about Vikings, is another historical fiction. It is also quite violent, but the basic story is one of revenge. The main character, Thorfinn, there's an act of violence that is committed early in the series, and he is seeking revenge. This is my favorite volume. Again, I believe these are 2-in-1 volumes, so this one is volume 7, so this is probably actually volumes 14 and 15, which I'm not sure if that is interesting to anyone, but this is where, for me, the story changes. This is like the second main arc, and it goes from, to me, kind of a standard revenge plot, revenge tale that is interesting and intriguing and lots of action and cool, yeah, sword fighting. This is where, for me, it becomes something more, and I think I love where it goes. I know some people aren't a huge fan, and I'm actually very intrigued. There's an anime based off of this manga, and I think people are loving it at the moment. I'm very, very curious to see what people think. Probably in season 2, I'm guessing, when we get to some of the stuff in here, because everything changes. But it's such a great series. Like I said, it could have been number 1. This does have a scene that made me cry, like really, really cry. Not like really cry, but like a manly cry. Anyways, read Vinland Saga. All right, and lastly, number 1. I mean, if you watch this channel, you probably know what it is at this point, because they're all right here, and that would be Fullmetal Alchemist. This series is incredible. It is probably, I think I just realized, the only shonen on here. But Fullmetal Alchemist, it doesn't have that battle manga vibe that a lot of shonen does have. Now, I'm not saying not all shonen is battle manga, but the big ones, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, what else do we have? I'm missing one, but you know what I'm talking about. They're all like, fight. We gotta fight each other and win, and friendship. And this one has plenty of fighting and friendship and all that, but it has a huge, huge cast of characters that are all super interesting. The basic plot, and you've heard this, I'm sure, again on this channel a bunch of times. You have 2 brothers, Edward and Alphonse, and they are both alchemists, and they had, in the past when they were younger, tried to resurrect their mom using alchemy, which is forbidden, and it cost them, Edward, it cost him his leg and his arm, and it cost Alphonse his entire body, and he's been put into the suit of armor. So that is the basic premise. They're trying to get their bodies back, but as I said, the characters you meet along the way, this is one of my favorites. This is Breeza Hawkeye. They are all incredible. It is surprisingly deep. If you read the opening chapters, I think you may not be certain how deep it gets. Now, I will say another plus is there is a lot of humor. I don't want to make it sound like this is like super serious manga. Rah. There's a lot of humor. The panels themselves, the drawings, can be super hilarious, but at the same time, there is a maturity about it, and I do think it grows more mature, darker as the series progresses, although one of the darkest moments actually comes pretty early, so who knows that's even accurate. If I had one complaint, and it's, again, kind of a small one, it's the same one I had about 20th Century Boys. Around maybe volumes, 2019, somewhere in there, it kind of feels like maybe the plot lost its way a little bit, and we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But with longer running series, I get that's probably going to happen, and I don't think it doesn't make it lesser. I don't think it is a bad series by that. I do think it could have been streamlined a little bit, but on the plus side, this is a cozy, I think, 27 volumes with the original volume, so it's not a huge series, unlike some other shonen. Anywho, Fullmetal Alchemist is so good. If you don't have the resources to buy all these, or if your library doesn't have them, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the anime, follows the series pretty much to a T, with the exception of, I think they kind of change the beginning. They make up an episode in there that isn't in here, but they also take out some stuff. Aside from that slight change about the very beginning, Brotherhood's a pretty faithful adaptation. Let me know what your favorites are and lay me on some recommendations. I will definitely make a list, try to check them out. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.